Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a casted game of Beyond All Reason. Today I'm casting a game between Ptaq, or I think that's how you say it, Ptaq, and Daywalker. This is the best of 3 in the Alpha Cup 3. It is in the beginning of the brackets, so an early match. Technically, you'd say it is the first round of the final stage. So this is already very good players. Ptaq, of course, who's been around for a long time and who is also working on bar as a contributor, a heavy contributor. He's been around for a long time, from my understanding. And Daywalker, a great player also. I didn't actually show the skill levels here. I'll have to look around for it in the settings for next time. But we see the players are opening with wind on this map. The wind speed is actually great, 5 and 15, meaning there won't be too bad timings for wind. But Ptaq actually opts for solar anyway, with only one wind turbine in the very beginning. Oh, we see he does transition to wind, as the wind is 15 right now, which is almost as much as the solar for a fraction of the cost. If we look, it costs only 45 metal to build compared to the 150 of the solar collector. Of course, it varies heavily, so it's difficult. Oh, we already see aggression from Daywalker, who is actually pushing across with a grunt across the map. And Ptaq actually opted for a vehicle plant first, with incisor tanks right now to defend himself. Daywalker being very active on the map with his grunts, trying to establish a good map control right off the bat. Yeah, he opted for, of course, the bot lab, the more classical opening for, well, most Cortex players. It's actually, I forgot to mention this is Cortex versus Cortex, as you can see, both commander of the same faction, but completely different starts. And we see Ptaq actually heavily opting into solar power, while Daywalker is actually using almost exclusively wind. There's not one solar panel. A wind lover, of course. I am one myself, and I do love my wind power. So let's see how this game progresses. Right now, both players being fairly defensive, just fortifying, Ptaq fortifying his base, his ramp, very crucial. And Daywalker actually pushing to the middle, while Ptaq actually trying to contest part of the map or force him to back off. He doesn't know about this, I believe. If we see player view, no, he does not know. He hasn't spotted Daywalker's commander in the middle. I don't think that he can push through with only 4 tanks, light tanks. Yeah, this is not gonna go well. And Ptaq recognizes he's completely outnumbered. The grunts will outfight his light tanks, incisor tanks. Yeah, he has to back off. Only loses 2, which honestly is fine. Not too expensive at still 118 metal, while grunts only cost 36. They're dirt cheap. So yeah, he can have a lot of them and trade away a few for 2 tanks is great. He doesn't mind at all. Ptaq opting to take the safer metal extractors at the back rather than push through the middle like Daywalker. So interesting strategy, while Daywalker is being more aggressive in his play, trying to shove Ptaq into a corner, which I think is great if he manages, but he only has a few grunts, which will not hold up great against incisors if he gets close to equal numbers. The incisors having a lot more, we can see 800 HP compared to the grunt, 300 barely. So the DPS is roughly the same, I believe. But yeah, the tankiness is completely different. So the Incisor tanks will win out against grunts in close to equal numbers. But of course, right now we see 12 grunts versus the 6 incisors, basically doubling the DPS potential. So both players have to be careful. Ptaq now finally opting to push to the middle, while Daywalker has done the same. He's finished actually even fortifying with a few light laser towers. Yeah, both players actually very passive right now, just feeling each other out. Oh, here we have a skirmish. Just one. I think there was a light incisor that died. No grunts. That's a great trade for him. Daywalker showing great care with his grunts, actually, not leaving them too long to be swooped up by the faster tanks. Actually, they move about the same speed. They're 3 speed faster, which is honestly insignificant. But it does mean he can get away if they simply run straight. Also to note that the tanks, being vehicles, are slower up slopes than the grunts, who can easily outpace them in uneven terrain. Right? We see 3 Sugs trying to... I wonder what he's gonna do. Is he gonna push in? There is a light laser tower. Soon 2. I don't think the Sugs a lot tanker than the grunts, but will it be enough? I don't think so. I think the Sugs will have to back off. Ptaq being careful. Here we see... Oh, actually, the grunts do take that one tower, but one grunt is already down. And the last tower will not hold, it seems. The grunts simply too tanky. They have, 1000 HP. Yeah, simply too tanky for the light laser towers. And he will clean it out. And in the middle, we see Ptaq responding by aggressing Daywalker, pushing at his front lines, feeling him out. And right now, the map's split in 2. Both players simply trying to take and hold, set up the front lines, and get their economy going. We see Daywalker still continuing with wind power, and it's great right now. I haven't kept an eye on it all the game, but it's been great almost all the time. While Ptaq, only a few, but he is opting into heavier wind. We can see there's a lot of wind queue up right now. He does recognize that he seems to want a solid base of solar just for the consistency. Oh, and we see Ptaq's commander, sorry, boldly going where he maybe shouldn't. If he's caught out here, this could be dangerous, especially because there's nothing covering behind him. And the Sugs will actually... He does have a radar, so he sees this. That is not an issue. We can see in Ptaq's vision, he does see the Sugs here, so he does recognize that he could get flanked, but yeah, he's being very careful about it, and all of his incisors are in a great spot to cover his commander. If you're new to Bar, know that in a 1v1, well, even in Teamgate, once all the commanders are dead, you lose the game, basically. So in a 1v1, you only have 1 commander, so you have to be very careful. And some games, despite... Wait, we'll have to talk about it later, as the grunts... Oh no, he does back off, so some games you win heavily, but because the enemy can manage to snipe your commander. Oh, we see Daywalker pushing in the middle with pounder tanks that are great area damage. They will deal heavy damage to these light incisor tanks. We see Ptaq having to escape with his commander, but Daywalker doesn't recognize that he does potentially have a shot. He could have a shot. Oh, he does see it, it seems. Let's see the player view. Yeah, he does see the commander out there, but Ptaq taking it very carefully. The Sugs aren't a huge threat to the commander, early T1 units, so it is not a great threat, but it can happen very fast. The commander is actually not that tanky, and you have to be careful, especially in 1v1s where, yeah, the loss of your commander could spell doom. I mean, it does spell the end of the game, so you have to be careful. Only 2 laser towers protect him here right now, but he is very bold with it. And we see Pounder Tanks versus Thugs. Pounder Tanks great at deal. Oh no, that's a Brute. And the Pounder is already dead. So the Brute Tank, the heaviest Tech 1 tank of Cortex versus the heaviest bot of Cortex Thug, which costs about half. The Brute does have a lot more HP. Believe they have similar range. Yes. So all in all, they do trade rather well. I mean, evenly. But the Thug is cheaper with less HP. But damage-wise, they're very similar in range and weapon types. And we see the grunts. He's kept a lot of grunts alive over here. 24 grunts are very fast and makes Ptaq have a hard time to gain more map control, because yeah, Daywalker really pushing and prodding at Ptaq at every corner, just trying to keep him in his little box down here, but he doesn't realize he could actually swipe this whole area to the right, but he prefers to push into the middle, which might be a way better strategy. We'll see how it pans out, but there's defenses here. Ptaq is reacting. There's Pounder Tanks and heavy tanks. The Pounders, which will deal great amounts of area damage in the early game. Great against grunts, but they're not fighting there. He's getting surrounded instead. With the commander, will it be enough to cover his back? No, he decides to ignore the front completely and instead trust his army to win this fight. It's very close, it's very even. But Daywalker, the surround, he's coming into his base. There's only 1 light laser tower and a few units coming out. But he backs off. I think with defender's advantage, more tanks are coming out by the second. How much damage will he be able to do? He's coming back with the Brute, with the Pounder. The Pounder great at taking out grunts in the early game. And Ptaq's commander running back home. His economy, he's taking some damage. It's not critical yet, but it's definitely not pleasant. This is not great for him. And Daywalker, he seems to have such huge control of the map. Yeah, and Ptaq, he sees it, he taps out. It's too much. The tank's still alive, back in his base. Yeah, that was just too much. Resources actually very similar, but Daywalker simply able to use the flanks and his faster units, and also thugs. He has more thugs because he went bots. They're half as cheap as the brutes, as the pounders, so you have simply more units, and they output about the same DPS. They have about the same range, but simply less life. But if you outnumber your opponent, you're gonna crush them. So yeah, great game from Daywalker.